Alrighty, welcome everyone to the Virtual College Exploration STEM Days in partnership with Cachet. I'm going to kick us off with some housekeeping items. First and foremost, we have more sessions through this evening, so feel free to continue to register and continue to connect with colleges and universities. When you do get a confirmation email from us, there is a barcode included, but know that that barcode's not necessary for any of the virtual events. All of these sessions are being recorded and posted to our website shortly after the session concludes. So feel free to check back on our website if you want to rewatch a session you participated live in or watch one you may have missed. And then you'll notice that you will see and hear the presenters. They can't see or hear you all. This is webinar style format. So any questions you have throughout the presentation, feel free to type those into the Q&A box, and the presenters will do their best to address those throughout the presentation. So this is the Women in STEM info session, and I will pass it over to Jordan.
All right, thank you so much for passing it on. That's just absolutely wonderful. We are so glad to have all of you here with us, and we are looking at the Women in STEM presentation for today, and we have a lot of great information for you from Caltech and Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. You have here your panel of presenters, Dr. Jeanette Lacoste, Tessa Tweet from Caltech, Jill Butcher and Dexter Jordan from Rose-Hulman. And what we plan to do today in this 45-minute time span is to talk about our school-specific opportunities and information for women, the groups that we have to offer. We'll have some wonderful students who will come and talk about their experiences as well from both schools. So this will be a very informative session for you in that regard. And on that note, I'm going to stop sharing this screen and turn it over to Tessa from Caltech.
Okay. Can everybody see this? Good? Okay. So I want to just first introduce myself and introduce Caltech. We're a small private institution, a research institution in Southern California, right outside of Los Angeles. I'm assuming that you're here because you are interested in going to school to further study STEM, and that you are a woman identifying or non-binary, non-male student. So this is a great place for you to get kind of a first taste of what Caltech is like for those students. And I'm gonna just dive right in and first introduce, looks like I've skipped my slide where I'm gonna introduce myself, so I'll just go ahead and talk about myself. My name is Tessa Tweet. I am an assistant director of admissions. Online, I also have Jan Lacoste. And Jan, I don't know if you want to turn your video on for a second and introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Jan Lacoste. I'm Associate Director of Admissions at Caltech. I was the first in my family to attend college. And I'm excited to be here with you talking about women in STEM. I'll be in the background answering some questions.
Great. And then the one thing I want to add is that this is not a traditional information session. So your questions about our SAT moratorium or how long your application essay should be, all of that stuff is really more geared towards a traditional info session. We've got lots of information online. We run info sessions twice a week, so hop over there if there's anything that we don't answer, but this is really going to be focused on women in STEM. And then myself, my pronouns are she, her, and as a biracial woman, I'm really dedicated to making STEM an inclusive place for everyone. Okay, so first up, I want to talk a little bit about our mentoring resources. So I think one of the things that really sets Caltech apart as a great STEM institution for really every student are access to mentoring resources. So the Caltech Center for Inclusion and Diversity offers quite a few specific mentoring programs specifically for women and then also women of color. So one of the One of the best programs is Women Mentoring Women. This is a student, this is a program which is for first year all the way through upperclassmen and upper class women. Pairs first year students with upper class undergraduate women, and also students can be paired with a mentor in the community, in the Caltech community. So beyond faculty, they can be paired with scientists or researchers who can kind of guide them through the system of being a woman in science. We also have Caltech Center for Inclusion also offers programs for techers of color, which is a way to kind of connect with graduates and postdoc students as well. We also have the Freshman Summer Research Institute. So this is a program that is geared towards underrepresented students. So women, but also students of color. And this really allows for a great orientation to the STEM field. And then one other thing to note, the programs that are put on by the Caltech Center for Inclusion and Diversity are inclusive, right, to a fault. And so they use an inclusive definition of women, which includes trans women, and it's also designed, and they are designed to be a feminine-centered space when they are women-specific programs. So, we've got so much on the list, right, of these. We've got so many of those mentoring programs. We also have affinity groups, which are beyond just mentoring programs. These are groups where students with similar interests or, who want support groups that align with their values can find each other. So some of the affinity groups I'll kind of expand on, like RoboGals, which is an international organization that, works with young women who want to study engineering and related fields. And then they also do, the RoboGals will do interactive engineering-based workshop with girls in the community. So they do introduce a Girl to Engineering Day and lots of things like that. There's the Caltech Society for Women Engineers. That's a national organization. And there's a Caltech chapter, right? And this is a great organization for professional engineers and emerging professionals and engineering students. It's a great way to connect with professors and local activities, and then there's things like career fairs and workshops and speakers. So, there's so many affinity groups listed. You've got LGBTQ, there's, if you're identifying, there's plenty of affinity groups aligned with that. And then the one thing that I really want to add is that Caltech is a small place and it's student-centered. So if you are looking at this list and you're thinking like, where is, X affinity group? That's for you to come and help make, and we've got a Center for Diversity, for Inclusion and Diversity that really will help get that off the ground and running. And then we also have research opportunities, right? So you've got your mentoring, you've got your support and your affinity groups. And then we also want to make sure that students are out there in the field getting experience. Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowships is kind of our signature program. These are our undergraduate research fellowships that are funded by Caltech, so students are paid. They carry out 10 weeks of research, and it really is kind of beyond the lab assistant position that many of our students will also do over their time, either in high school or college. But it is a research project that students have to propose and get accepted and then present on. And the majority of Caltech students will participate in a SURF at least one point in their Caltech career. We also have WAVE fellowships, and WAVE is not an acronym, it's all caps, which fosters diversity. And so that's another program that's geared towards underrepresented students. So especially students that might not have been traditionally exposed to engineering, right? So that includes women and minorities and first generation college students and geographically underrepresented students, right? So from areas that we don't get a lot of Caltech students. Last, Mellon May's Undergraduate Fellowship is a really great prestigious national program that quite a few of our students participate in, which is focused on increasing the number of underrepresented students who pursue doctorate degrees. That's something that we get a lot of, you know, how many women professors are there, right? And so part of our goal to making Caltech a more diverse place is that we know we need to start training the professors and the PhDs because, you know, in 30 years, we need to have more women who are in those roles. And then, you know, of course, internships is a whole other box that I'm not going to get into today, but internships are organized through the Center for Career Development. Okay, so my 10 minutes is up. I'm going to switch it over to Rose Holman. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we're going to bring our Caltech students on with the Rose Holman students in a little bit.
All right. And once again, I am Dexter Jordan, and I am in the Office of Admissions at Rose Holman. And I am going to start sharing my screen. It looks like I have jumped ahead already to Rose Holman being a school in Terre Haute, Indiana. We're a school that believes in project-centric type work. We have been nationally recognized here for the last few years as a elite college for faculty excellence. And we have wonderful programs for our students to be involved in. Like Caltech, we're a small school, but we are undergraduate focused. According to the U.S. News and World Report, we've been the #1 undergraduate engineering college here for the last 21 years. We have a few accolades from several other magazines and rankings, and all of those have been wonderful for the school. But I think the thing that Rose Holman has hung its hat on is the fact that we really do enjoy and have specialized in undergraduate education. Here's a few facts and figures about Rose Holman. About 2,200 undergraduate students. Student faculty ratio is pretty good. Average class size, 20 students a class. Lots of hands-on work at the school. We are a academically rigorous school, and we want you to be able to do both the practical application as well as the concepts and theories of whatever discipline you decide to choose for your undergraduate pursuits. We have 19 different major areas of study. We have 10 graduate STEM degrees, and then 5 of our undergraduate engineering programs are ranked #1 in the nation. We do have clubs and organizations that give our young ladies an opportunity to not only expand their social skills, but also work on their leadership skills. We have the Society of Women Engineers, a chapter on our campus. We have the Rosebud program, which is a program that's specifically targeted towards young ladies who are interested in electrical engineering, computer science, software engineering as well. We have the Wolf Pack, which is a group of young ladies that started this club a few years ago, and they are all computer programmers and software engineer students here at Rose. We have the Association of Women in Mathematics, and we do have some sororities on campus for students to participate in: Alpha, Omicron, Pi, Chi Omega, and Delta, Delta, Delta. We have 4 affinity groups that I'd like to point out at this time: the National Society of Black Engineers, Society of Hispanic Engineers, Unity, and the Society of Asian Scientists and Engineers. And I apologize, I should be the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineership. It's something to point out that this past year, these 4 organizations, which are campus-wide organizations and national organizations, all had female presidents. So you'll get a chance to flex your leadership muscles as well in these organizations. Lastly, I want to give you our contact information so you can see how to contact us. You can have Jill Butcher's address, email address, as well as mine here. and we will make this information readily available to you later on. But we wanted to make sure and give you just a little information about Rose-Hulman, and also give you the opportunity to contact us should you have further questions. What I'd like to do at this time is to turn it back over to Tessa, so that, and I'll stop my share here, so that she can introduce her students, and then I will back out of here completely, and Jill Butcher will be taking over for the Rose-Hulman students. So I will turn it over at this time.
Sorry about that. So I've got my students online. We've got Jessica and Lily, who are ambassadors, and they are going to speak to what it's like to be a woman at Caltech. Then we're going to bring on the Rose-Hulman students, and this is a great time for Q&A. I'm going to be trying to take as many as I can. I know we've got a lot of participants online and we don't have a lot of time. But the first thing that I want to do is just ask Jessica and then Lily to talk about what it's like to be a woman in STEM at Caltech.
Yeah, I can go first. So hi everyone, my name is Lily. I use she, her pronouns. Woman of mixed race, that's a little bit of the background that I come into Caltech. I found a very inclusive community. I love the programs that we have to support women, mentoring women. That's advancing my years at Caltech has been so super important to me. And that's the most valuable part, one of the most valuable parts of my Caltech experience.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jessica. I'm a rising senior in biology, and like Lily, I found it very easy to be a woman in STEM at Caltech. We have a lot of collaborative policies, and everyone's always collaborating on campus, and I've never experienced any kind of discrimination or anything in terms of collaboration. And we also have a lot of great opportunities for women to lead different groups. So we have a house system on campus, and it's part of our residential life. And each house has a house president. And a lot of our house presidents are actually women. Like Lily and I are in the same house, and our current house president is in fact female. And I'm also a part of a good number of clubs. Most of them are pre-med clubs. And I have a leadership position in all of those. So it's just, Caltech's a really good place for women to mentor women and to have leadership roles, and to really kind of explore their interests without any fear of discrimination.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you if you've participated in any of the programs that I talked about, like the affinity groups or things like that.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about this. I'm actually community manager of the Caltech Feminist Club. So we put on a lot of events, and I'm in charge of kind of organizing those events. So most recently for Pride Month, we did a gay movie screening night where we all got on, watched Call Me By Your Name. It's very wholesome. We have a lot of other events too. We organize going to the women's marches. We have smaller events throughout the week. Where we just meet up, talk, get coffee. We're starting a journal club as well, which is really exciting, reading some of the feminist literature and then coming to discuss it. I really love that community and really value it. I also, I don't think you mentioned this, but and it's not specifically tailored for women, I have just found a very women-centered space there. Through the Caltech Y, I tutor through the RISE program. So we tutor Pasadena area high school kids, and I have exclusively tutored women and young women, and have forged these great relationships with them. So I was planning on going to 2 of my 2Ds graduations. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to. I was invited to my other one's quinceañera, which I won't be able to make, unfortunately. But it's just this connection with women inside and outside of the classroom, and on both sides of being mentored, that I love through that program.
I haven't actually been in any of the femininity clubs that Tessa mentioned, but another space that I found to be very women-centric is actually the cross-country team. So I do run cross-country, and yes, it's co-ed. Yes, we have a women's team and a men's team. And even though we'll do things together, the women's team actually, like, over the past few years, we've really bonded and kind of like come together as the girls on the cross-country team, and we'll have like midterm dinners together. We'll go get ice cream together. We are a sports team, but a lot of the upperclassmen on the cross-country team will kind of mentor, tutor the younger generation on the cross-country team. So it's also a great place to meet new girls and interact.
Great. One of the questions that came in was, have you ever experienced being, the only woman in a class?
Yeah, so I did in high school, and I don't know why. Maybe I'm particularly headstrong, but I remember being in my APCS class in high school and not even realizing until April that I was the only woman in the class. And it was actually a huge transition, because I feel like coming from this community where I was used to being the only girl in the classroom, especially in STEM classrooms, and coming to Caltech where, 50% are women. And that was a huge transition for me, where I was like, wow, this is crazy. I didn't even know that this could exist. So that's another reason I love the Caltech community as well. It's just, it made me realize what I was missing out on almost, because I didn't even realize for my high school life. But I have never had a class at Caltech where I've been the only woman.
So I have had a class at Caltech where I've been the only woman. It actually happened this past term when we were on Zoom, and it was already a very small class, but it was very normal. Again, like no discrimination, and everybody just contributed their bit, and it was just a normal class. So classes with majority women and classes with a minority of women are kind of just equal and the same at Caltech. There's really no difference between them, and it's a great learning environment.
Is there anything that you would want to share with your experience having mentors or role models as women mentors and role models at Caltech?
Well, I can think of one thing that is kind of always going to be cemented in my mind is Katie Bowman and her imaging of the black hole and the role that she played in that. She is such a huge celebrity to me. Honestly, she's a scientific celebrity, and being able to have her in the Caltech community, and she's actually one of my co-mentors, or co-advisors for my computer science minor, and having her to be able to teach in the Caltech community and mentor me in that way is so overwhelming. And I don't know, it's literally like being mentored by Beyonce for me. I'm so excited about it. So Caltech does a great job of having really incredible women in the community that are so kind and giving and kind of paying it forward as well. So I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Jessica.
Yeah, my mentor in lab right now, she is a grad student, and we're actually super close. We've known each other for 2 years, and at first, the mentoring started out strictly lab related, get this done and stuff like that. But now we talk about everything. So what's super nice about having a female mentor is you can kind of slowly move your interactions towards something more life related or more kind of female topic related, and you don't have to be scared of it. And my mentor in lab is super great. I love her so much. And I'm just super fortunate to be able to have her as a mentor and have so many female grad students who are awesome on campus to talk to and interact with.
You're muted.
We've got about 20 more minutes. I'm going to turn it over to the Rose Holman students so that they can chat a little bit, and then we'll bring it in for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Tessa. I have asked 2 students to join us here today, and Patty and Sydney, if you can go ahead and activate your cameras and join us online. Patty is an electrical engineer from Indiana, and Sydney is a biomedical engineer from Maryland. And what I asked them to do today was talk a little bit about themselves and some internships that they've held since being a student at Rose, and a little bit about how they were able to obtain those internships. And then depending on our time length, I may ask a couple more questions. So go ahead. Sydney, we'll start with you.
Okay, so I guess to start off, I'm a rising senior right now, and as Jill said, I'm a biomedical engineer, and I've had 2 internships since starting at Rose, so I didn't have one after my freshman year, but my sophomore year I had a research internship at the University of Texas, and I worked with a research associate in her biomedical / mechanical engineering lab, and we were just looking at trying to extend organ preservation life type, like time and all that type of stuff. And I kind of got that internship from a personal connection that my uncle, who lives down in Austin, Texas, he knew of someone at the University of Texas, and he gave me his email, and so I just messaged him and sent him my resume, and then we had a quick little interview, and then that was that. So that was good. And then my second internship experience was at Cook Medical, and I just ended it, and I actually took a co-op with them. So I didn't take any classes our spring quarter, and I just worked with them from early March to the end of July. And I just got that internship from the career fair. So we have a big career fair every quarter at Rose, and I got that one in the fall. And so, yeah, that's it.
Great, Patty.
Yeah, so kind of as Jill mentioned, my name's Patty. I'm going to be a rising senior also at Rose-Hulman. So I've also had 2 internships. After my freshman year, I did not have an internship, but I was a counselor for a engineering STEM camp that Rose does over the summer for rising juniors in high school. So that was a lot of fun. The past 2 years, I've worked for the same company, Curate Corporation. It's a really big construction and engineering company. The past 2 summers, I've worked with the power delivery department. So kind of what I've been doing is designing substations for power plants and transmission lines. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm really big into big power. Rose has a really good program for power, and that was one of the reasons why I was able to get the internship I got. I got both of them through the career fair, but also through a little bit of networking. So normally a lot of companies the night before the career fair will invite you out for dinner if you've had an internship with them before. And one of my friends had an internship with Curate before, and they invited me out to dinner with them. So I got to talk to the recruiters the day before the career fair. So that was kind of nice. You got to have a lot of like one-on-one conversation with them. So then when I saw them at the career fair the next day, they already kind of knew who I was, and it was just kind of nice because a lot of times there are some longer lines and you do have to wait a little bit. So they already kind of knew who I was, and they offered me an interview right away, and it was super nice. And I got an offer back to go this year, which was great. But the career fair is a great way to just kind of network and get to know a lot of different companies. We normally have over 300 companies the first career fair. There's a lot. And the next day we have Interview City, which is really cool. So like a lot of people will normally have like 2 or 3 interviews the next day after the career fair, where you kind of get just to talk one-on-one with one of the recruiters.
Let me pop in here. Sydney or Patty, I'll let either one of you answer this. Is there any advice you would give a female student coming out of high school when looking at a college? I know, or maybe talk about how your process matured through the college search, and what are the things you were looking for as a female engineer?
So I can go ahead and start with this one. So I was looking at a lot of bigger public schools when I was first looking at engineering, like Michigan, Purdue, just some around like the Midwest area, because that's where I'm from. And then my grandma actually lives really close to Rose, and she's like, you should look at it. And I was kind of nervous because it is only around 25% female. So I was like, well, that I don't know if I like that. But then I came on a visit to Rose, and there's just so many organizations that help women feel more included in campus and in STEM in general. Your freshman year, you live on an all female floor. So you just get to know a lot of women just from that. A lot of the organizations I'm in have women leadership. Like I'm senior class president. I'm in student government, and last year half of the exec board were females. So there is a lot of females in leadership positions in a lot of the different clubs. There's very few clubs that don't have any female presence. So it was more of going on a tour and doing an overnight through Rose that I kind of saw that you don't really feel like you're that much of a minority on campus because of how many clubs and organizations and just activities that there are, where you just see a lot of women. So you're just like, oh, it doesn't really feel like I'm only a fourth of the population here.
I can build off that a little bit. I was the same with Patty. I was looking at a lot of big public schools, and I was applying for colleges. I wanted to go to like Clemson, like University of Texas, all these huge schools. And then my brothers had gone to Rose-Hulman, and they're like, you should really consider Rose-Hulman. And so I was like all against it at first, didn't want to do it. But then I went on a tour. And I mean, I just loved it. I loved that they had so many opportunities for students, just everyone, like just diversity in organizations and like women organizations. And I just like that the classes were small, and the person that was giving me a tour, she like walked by a professor, and like the professor like talked to us and like knew her by her name and like recognized her. And so I liked that type of feel. And that even happens to me now when I give tours. And so I like showing students that. But yeah, so that's kind of why I changed my mind. I just liked that, everyone remembers you and you have all these opportunities and all that type of stuff.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think at this point, I'll turn it back over to Tessa, and we can open up some questions that possibly our students or any of us can answer.
All right.
You're muted.
So I think you're muted again.
Sorry. So
That's
hopefully
okay.
students hop on. Jessica, if you want to turn your camera on. I know we have some questions that would be great to get your take on. Let me pull this one up. So what parts of the culture at Caltech do you like and dislike, and how has that affected your time there?
So most of the parts of Caltech culture that I like and dislike are not super related to women in STEM. But the part that I like about Caltech is really the collaboration policy and how everybody wants to work together. And again, gender poses no kind of barrier to who you can work with versus who you can't work with. And it's just the overall kind of students versus science mentality right there. A part of Caltech that I dislike is that sometimes our workload can get kind of heavy and kind of large, and every student experiences this. So the good part is that the students can get each other through heavy workloads. Again, I have a great group of female friends who gets me through my heavy workload, so that's very awesome. But also just having a large workload is not where we want to be sometimes. So yeah.
Okay.
And I'd love to hear from the Rose-Hulman students as well about what you like about the culture.
So at Rose, it's honestly kind of a joke. We have like the Rose bubble. So you could ask almost any Rose student their favorite thing about Rose is the community, how inclusive everyone is. I know a lot of like the big engineering schools, people are very it's kind of like a competition to see who can be the best in the class, where at Rose, everyone is so willing to help each other when you have trouble with homework. The professors have open office hours. I know like at big schools, people are like, that's so weird. You just walk to your professor's office and ask them a question whenever you want. And I'm like, if they're in there, yes. People are very big into like study groups. We have like sophomore tutors. There are normally a decent amount of honors fraternities or honors clubs that offer tutoring. So Rose is just kind of there to help you succeed. Like they want to help you succeed. So like that's my favorite part about Rose is the community, and there are so many people in the community that helped me, pushed me along in my career that I'm going to continue to remember for like the rest of my life.
Great. Another question that came in was, what do you think is important to look for in other colleges? I know our participants, hopefully they're going to be applying to Rose-Hulman and Caltech, but I'm sure they're looking at other colleges as well, other hopefully cachet colleges. What do you think is important to look for?
I can take this one. I think it's super important to look for how you think you would fit in with the community of that college and kind of the overall vibe of that college. I will say that when I got into Caltech was kind of a school I applied to because, you know, I applied to MIT and my parents were like, you know, there's like a really good tech school in California. It's called Caltech. You should try it. And I didn't expect Caltech to have the kind of community or environment that it actually did when I finally visited the school. And then at the other schools I visited, I just didn't get the same sense of community that I did at Caltech. So don't look at the statistics. Don't look at, oh, the ranking is blah, 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 blah. Really just look at, can I vibe with both the upperclassmen who are hosting me at the school and the people who will be or could be in my class at this school? Because at the end of the day, the experience that you get at that school is what matters most.
Anyone else? Or I'll move on to the next question. For my students, what's your advice for a student who's unsure of what occupation they want to go into, right? So they know they like STEM, but they're not sure what they are going to do in STEM. What can you do with a math or a physics or a degree from one of these STEM institutions?
I can take this one real quick. So as I said, after my freshman year, I was a counselor at an engineering STEM camp that Rose-Hulman does. So I would say if you have the opportunity to go to a STEM engineering camp, definitely take it, or try to get into a program in your community or at your high school that offers some kind of STEM class. A lot of times will do some kind of project in those classes that kind of helps you like hone in on what you want to do, or find like a mentor, like when you're in high school, of like a college person or someone that can kind of help show you what you want to do. I know for me, I've honestly always kind of known I wanted to be an engineer since I was little, but I've always kind of switched like what kind of engineering I wanted to do. And my high school had a STEM program where you got to do a whole bunch of different projects and you got to look at a lot of the different types of engineering. And that's kind of how I honed in that I wanted to do electrical engineering, because I like that one the best. So I honestly just think just kind of like getting in there and starting to do some project, like STEM projects, so you can kind of see which area you like the most.
A great answer.
I'd like to jump in here with a question from a student who asked, and this is for our students, how or when did you realize that you wanted to do something in STEM?
I'd love to.
I can answer that. Oh, sorry. Okay, I can answer it. So I actually didn't know I wanted to do STEM for a really long time. I had no idea what I wanted to do until around my junior year of high school, where Patty talked about that she was a counselor for that camp at Rose, and I attended that. And so I did Operation Catapult, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was so against like all these ideas. And then I went to this camp, and like it was really focused on STEM, really focused on engineering, and they gave you the opportunity to like pick your own type of project. And so they presented like all these different type of projects, and I picked one that focused on biomedical engineering. and I realized, I mean, that was what I was very interested in, like the engineering side. I wasn't sure about biomedical yet, but I kind of, when I applied to Rose, I put in that I wanted to do biomedical engineering, and then you kind of like take the generic classes a little bit first, and they kind of, you know, they give you the option to like change your major if you want. And so I kind of stuck with biomedical engineering, but that's kind of how I went. Like I wasn't really into STEM at all. Like you don't have to know what you want to do right away, but just, yeah, so taking those classes.
Yeah, one thing about Caltech that kind of helps with that question is that you do not have to declare your major when you apply. You can say like, oh, I'm interested in physics. Oh, I'm interested in bio. And that gives our admissions counselors an idea of, oh, this part of STEM is what they're interested in. But for me, I really was interested in bio in high school, but I didn't necessarily want to hone in on strictly STEM. I was still open to an idea of more like liberal arts plus bio. But then I came to Caltech, and Caltech is very STEM focused, and I was okay with it. I was already just interested in bio anyway, so just having that much STEM in my schedule wasn't that big of a problem for me. But really, I'm tending towards the direction of computational bio right now, and I really only discovered that my sophomore year into my junior year at Caltech. A lot of it was through the research that I was doing. The research I was doing basically became a lot of programming and pretty computational. But yeah, as you advance through your college career, you definitely can hone in on a specific area of STEM that you're interested in.
Patty or Lily?
Yeah, definitely. So there's also the one thing that I didn't really realize is that there's so much pivoting that goes on too. Like people, as they advance in their careers, their lives can just take on such different directions, and you're like totally in charge of that, which was really liberating for me. So the thing, I feel like most people come to Caltech knowing that they want to do STEM very strongly. But at the same time, I don't necessarily feel boxed in by that at all. I've actually realized, for me personally, I really like being in an organizational, like managerial kind of position, tech adjacent. So now I'm looking into like project management or recruitment for tech companies and things like that, where I can still utilize the skills, my degree, but at the same time, I'm doing something that maybe is a better fit for me. So.
Patty, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I can add. My grandpa and my great grandpa were both engineers, and they were some of my like idols growing up. And I kind of always just heard some of the stories and some like the projects they worked on, and I always thought it was like really cool. And my mom always told me that when I was younger, I was always like taking apart toys and trying to put them back together. So I kind of always known I wanted to do engineering. Like I said before, taking those classes kind of helped me pick which ones I wanted to do. So for me, it's just kind of always been like a thing I've known. Yeah, that's about it.
Great. So I think it's about time to start wrapping up. I would love to hear the briefest of words of advice from each of our students to the women soon to be in STEM in the audience. And then we'll wrap up.
I can start. Just support one another. You're all on the same team.
Okay, I can go. Just kind of similar to that, like just don't be discouraged. Like, you know, if someone tells you you shouldn't do something or you can't do that, just don't let that get you down. Like, you know, like ask others if you feel like you need help. Like asking for help isn't a bad thing. It just, you can always do that, and people are going to be willing to do it.
Don't be afraid to get involved. Definitely, I would say get involved in at least one or two organizations on campus just to kind of network, and don't be afraid to go for those leadership positions that it seems like so many people are going for, because odds are you'll end up getting one of them at some point during your college career, and that just kind of helps build yourself up and like help with the confidence that you're going to need in the workforce.
Pursue what you're interested in. So instead of, if you feel kind of like a barrier, either self-imposed or society imposed on which direction you can go to, just don't let a barrier, kind of like a psychological barrier, stop you from doing what you're actually interested in. And every step of the way there will be help, whether it is from a female, whether it's from anyone in your workspace. So you will be supported no matter what you choose.
Great. I think that's all the time that we have for today. So thank you, Lily and Jessica and Patty and Sydney and Dexter and Jill and Jan. Thank you all so much for today. And Jen from StriveScan or Cache.
StriveScan. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being here and sharing such great information with the audience. Much needed presentation for sure. For those who are still online, letting you know that as soon as you exit the Zoom webinar, you will be taken to a quick survey. It's only 4 questions, so we'd love to hear your feedback. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we have more sessions partnered with Cache through this evening, and all of our recordings will be available on our website very shortly. So I hope everyone has a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And thank you once again to the teams at Caltech and Roseman for sharing their time today. Thanks, everyone.